It's Mark and Pete.
Hello, and welcome to the show. More colourful conversations with Mark and Pete. This is the show dedicated to religion, politics and business. Each week, clergyman Pete and businessman Mark take a topical topic and explore the issues. This week, is farming in crisis? Well, in the UK, there are many issues with farming. At one point in time, farming used to be the backbone of the community. Upstanding was the farmer. But today, farming does seem to be in crisis. In reality, it appears as though there are interlinked crises, whether that's through the diseases that have affected the industry over the recent years, or even down to as far as the price of milk. And in fact, it's getting to the point where many farmers are actually going out of business. Is this sustainable? Who is actually responsible? Is it the relationship with the EU, the European Union? Is it a relationship within the community? Is the government to blame? Well, there are many people that might say that this whole situation has become almost farcical. In fact, very funny for some. So I'm going to sort of set up the scene with a little ditty. So, clergyman Pete, just tell me what you think of this. I've got a little ditty called On the Funny Farm. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-U-I-O-U, and on that farm he had some debts, E-U-I-O-U, with a cheap deal here, a cheap deal there, here a cheap, there a cheap, everywhere is going cheap. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-U-I-O-U. So old MacDonald had a qualm, E-U-I-O-U. He owed so much money every day, E-U-I-O-U. With no bacon here, no bacon there, here a grunt, there a grunt, everywhere he's being milked. Old MacDonald came to harm, E-U-I-O-U. So old MacDonald gets an alarm, E-U-I-O-U. His land is sold for one-stop shops, E-U-I-O-U. With one stop here, one stop there, here a stop, there a stop. UK farming's becoming a flop. Now old MacDonald has no farm because E-U-I-O-U. Whack. Thank you very much. So then, clergyman Pete, what do you think of the state of farming in the United Kingdom today?
Well, I have this perception that farming is underrated, I suppose, as a profession, as an industry. There seems to be a lack of connection, perceived connection, between the food you get in the supermarket and the farming that supplies it. And that's not just, at a basic level, do the children know that meat actually comes from a cow or that milk comes from the same animal? I'm not talking about it at that level. I'm talking about at the level of the care done to make sure that farmers are protected properly. You need in any industry to be sure that you're going to be able to price your product at the right level in order to get sales and in order to get enough income. I just don't think that is the case with how agriculture has been treated in the UK, and so I see that it's becoming a real crisis because if this goes on and on, the uncertainty will mean people get out of farming.
Yes. Well, I'm going to give you some statistics here because this might actually set up the scene. Yep. So I think it is true that from a commercial point of view, farming is in crisis. Just to sort of illustrate the point, the price of agricultural produce on the global market, ironically, has actually fallen dramatically. So it's not just in the United Kingdom, it's throughout the world. Prices for commodities have also fallen by almost 50%. And over the last 20 years, farmers around the world are often not being paid, perceived to be a fair price for what they produce. And this, of course, has driven them out of business. So what does that mean? Well, there are a number of people who've studied this. So Deloitte and Touche, who's one of the surveying companies, have actually shown that the average net farm income fell dramatically from £80,000 in 1995 to 96 to £8,000 in 2000. Now, that just shows you the drop from the turn of the century, and to 2,500 during 2001. So, of course, you can see that things are declining. But there are a number of reasons for this, because during the turn of the 21st century, we had the foot and mouth disease, which obviously hit many farming communities. But also that they were saying that the average net farm income has since recovered a little bit, and again, only a little bit, to £10,100 in 2001, 2002, and moving upwards as we go through the century to £12,500 in 2002, 2003. But of course, when we sort of move on to where we are today, the alarming fact is that many farmers still, ironically, are being paid below the minimum wage. So in the United Kingdom, we have a law where people who are in a profession being employed, whether it be on a permanent basis or on a contract basis, should be paid a minimum wage. But that is actually, ironically, not happening in the farming communities. Now, it should be said that there's a widely held belief that farmers are creaming a fortune through the EU subsidies. Well, that is true that we do get a subsidy from the EU, but farmers typically tend to sort of receive around £3 billion under this Common Agricultural Policy, of CAP. But actually, it's not enough. And quite simply, to the point that you made earlier, how can we go on even more in the years to come if we don't put more investment into farming, and more importantly, look at the way that we look at pricing structures? It's just not sustainable. And the danger is that not only are we going to suffer, the industry is going to suffer, but communities will suffer as well. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, I agree. Now, I agree with the fact that we need to do something about the pricing, because I think that the key to a healthy industry, whatever it is, but let's look at farming, seeing it as an industry. If you're not able to price how you want all the time, if you start to introduce a system of some people getting subsidies and others not, etc., and that's particularly if that's controlled centrally, as it is in the EU from a distance, what you find is that people start to rely on their subsidies. And the second thing is that has skewed the pricing such that you're not able to price to make enough. You can't put the prices up high enough because the market won't wear it anymore because the subsidy's been coming in. Therefore, you need the subsidy.
Yes.
The problem now is we're in that situation. How to get to a situation where there is no subsidy, that the funding is comes through people making money from their products. Well, I can't see how you can do that without farming going through a very, very difficult patch. I mean,
yes.
And how to do it and still remain as government, because who's going to vote for you because you'd be so unpopular. I can't see how it can be done, but I believe that's what needs to be done. In that things like grants from a central body, yes, they're a good idea if they're for things like, well, we all need to upgrade our equipment, let's do this, or we all need to change because we need to do this to make farming better for the whole environment. So let's have a subsidy just for doing that temporarily, to start off the change. Those sort of short-term grants are a good thing, but this long-term subsidising skews the market and ends up with effectively the industry being controlled centrally.
Yes.
So it can't react properly and it goes down the tubes. And that's what I'm afraid is happening to the farming industry.
there is something else. So it's not only down the tubes, but down the drain. And in fact, many farmers feel that flushing away milk is probably an easier solution. Now, the reason I say that for our international listeners is that a lot of UK farmers have done some somewhat dramatic stunts. So, yes, old MacDonald has really sort of reached the end of his tether. Basically, what has happened is that due to the pricing structure in which they sell milk to big retailers, they have suddenly decided to take to the streets and even to the stores. And what has happened is that many farmers has basically gate-crashed a number of well-known brands and basically purchased a lot of milk and just simply taken the milk outside and given them away to the public, essentially with the view to say we are effectively giving away our production to the retailers. And you've got to ask, why has the price of milk fallen? Well, there are a number of reasons, and there are three key reasons. There are probably many, but the three one. Basically, dairy farmers are competing on a global market now, and of course, effectively, supply is exceeding demand. So that's one issue. The other one is that, and perhaps it's not so obvious to people, but actually there's a Russian ban on imports. So as a result, the collapse in demand from places like China and dairy products from the UK and so on has meant that the price has, of course, fallen. And that's why industry experts feel that that's a global influence. And there's the other one, which is back to our old friend, the European Union. At the end of March of this coming year, the EU lifts its quota on the amount of milk farmers could produce. So if you look at the way that the whole society is set in terms of, we all want milk. I certainly have it every day. I'm sure you do yourself. Mm-hmm. We have it in our tea. We have it in our coffee. And it's actually an important commodity. What would we do without it? But what would we say if we didn't have a farming community, whether it's in the UK or even in your own country? I think there needs to be better measures put in place. So I'm just going to ask you a question, Clergyman Pete.
Oh, yes.
So it comes back to, are you in touch with reality?
Oh, yes.
So what do you think in pounds sterling? And we'll go into pence.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think is, first of all, the cost of approximately, this is, because it will vary according to retailers, but approximately a 2-litre bottle of milk, if you purchase it at retail price?
To buy it at retail, 2-litre bottle of
a 2-litre bottle, yes.
Okay, I'm saying 95p.
Oh, no, that is very good. Listeners, that's very accurate. It was 94p.
No, I'm saying that because although obviously
you've got a pint of milk.
But I bought some milk not long ago. Obviously I like to send out one of the servants to do it, but of course, occasionally I have to do it myself.
But the reason I ask you that is that that's the retail price. Now, how much do you think it costs the farmer to produce it?
Well, I don't know that, do I? No, well, I would say...
I'm asking you. Have a guess.
No, what I would say is it's probably the cow, isn't it? Not the farmer. I mean,
not necessarily.
Oh, okay. Things are changing. I know
they're doing everything possible to make a profit.
I know that culture is changing, so that may be that's the case. I'm going to say that the price seems to be quite low and that it's coming down recently. So I would say that it's going to cost him 50p.
Well, it costs him 62 pence.
No,
but this is the key. This is the key. The farmer is only paid 48 pence, and this is and the retailer marks up the difference.
Yeah,
so effectively about the retail price. Yeah. So you can see that effectively what's happening is they're losing out, and of course this can't go on. It's interesting as well that in the United Kingdom, many farmers, one of their big outlets, even the Cooperative Society, or Co-op as we would call it here, the largest farmer in the UK, which receives about 5 million in subsidies, ironically, made an average loss of 500,000 in the year 2000. Now, some people may say that was because of grain being very expensive in certain areas and crop yield being down in some cases, and that will affect things. But the point here is that it's obvious that while subsidies do help, they're not enough. And I guess that really the question then is that I remember when I was at school that the farming community was literally the backbone of the community. In fact, they were often seen as the pillars of the community because, one, they could gain profit, they employed jobs. Actually, a lot of their produce could be seen in the stores. Yeah. Whereas the irony today, when I look at products on the shelves, a lot of the products come from far and wide. They come from all over the world.
Well, that is an issue,
not
yes.
from the local community.
I mean, there is an issue. I mean, and one of the buzzwords we have on Mark and Pete is localism, and shopping local products.
Yes.
Is a good thing. I mean, the thing that we would like to get to, Mark and Pete would like to get to, is a way in which it's seen as desirable, so that to shop locally. Not that we're having to persuade people. I had a local milkman come to my door the other day, almost in a pleading tone, saying, please let me deliver to your door.
Yes.
And he starts this Monday. If you're listening to this isn't going out live, so people listening to this, I'm already receiving the delivery from this local milkman. So. It's good that he's got that business going, and hope and pray that he's successful. But he's under a lot of pressure from big multinational companies who own the big supermarkets, who are supplying milk cheaply and undercutting him. So, you see, as a clergyman, I can say, oh yes, this is how we should shop locally, and prices should always be fair. The idea of keeping price is fair, of not cheating on the price, is central to Scripture.
Yes. And what does the Bible say about farming?
Well, the Bible sees farming as very, very important. I mean, it being the Bible starts with the story of how Adam and Eve are in this garden where the food's just provided. It's like God is the gardener. In Genesis chapter 2, you have God sort of getting his hand dirty in the soil and producing all these things. But then there's a handover to humans, and Genesis 1:29, God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food." And then as you read through the Bible, you see that being able to control, being able to farm, being able to develop difficult to grow plants like people growing grapes, where you have to really tend them and look after them, is seen as a sign of success of a society. So it does seem that in the Bible, it's an assumption that farming, the supply of food, which is then sold for a fair price, is the way that society runs. And the fact that we've got to a situation where that's not the case is just an example of how we've become divorced from biblical values. But that's as far as I go with that advice. That's how things should be run. What I want to do is, ask the businessman, well, how do we solve it then? What's to be done to get to such a situation where the farmers can have a successful business, not relying on subsidies all the time, and get a fair price for their product?
Well, in my opinion, I think that what has to happen is a multiple strategy. On the one hand, we have to look at our relationship with subsidies with the EU. That's the first point. And I know that opens up a wider issue about whether the United Kingdom is part of the EU, but clearly there's a first case there. The second thing is that what we need to do as a community is also take responsibility. When you are a consumer, when you go to the shelves, I think we also have to accept that when you pick up the product, of course, you possibly will go for the cheapest brand, possibly, because that's something that, in austere times, we're very conscious of the fact that, we have to look at every penny that we spend. But there's also the sustainability, because ironically the retailers are very powerful. There is a bit of an irony here. Although you think you're getting value for money, it's possible that you could actually find that you're getting not only better value by buying local goods, but actually better quality goods. So there's the quality aspect as well. From my experience, most local farmers will certainly outshine anyone from a quality point of view, partly for the things that things are far more fresh, They're not containing as much preservative, etc. But it's also about building that community and relying on the local community. So that's the other thing. And also, I think that the farming community needs to take a stance on this. Okay, we've talked about milk. Yes, you can play your stunts, but I actually think that it'd be interesting to know if they just simply stopped producing milk. Because the point being is, they can't carry on for years to come by producing milk because they're going to go out of business. So you've got one of two things. We've reached this ultimatum, this point in time now where somebody has to take a stance. Ironically, the farmer, yes, poor old MacDonald is struggling, but ironically, they've just got to simply say, let's unite and take a stronger stance and simply say, we're not going to produce any more milk for you guys. Well, bottom line is that what will happen is that prices will go up and retailers will find that they'll have to look to further suppliers abroad. Well, of course, the consumer's not going to have that. So there has to be a bit more cooperation. I think that retailers are realizing that the game has to change. I, as a consumer, would be prepared to pay more. I think that we've enjoyed some many years, in fact, of low prices on milk, but I don't think it's sustainable going forward. So I think the government's role, in my opinion, is about the bigger picture, which is, are we going to have a relationship with the European Union or not? That has to happen pretty quickly. And I think that's as much as I think that they can do. I think they can't impose any other regulation. It's about market forces. Yeah. I think that the UK farmer is in a strong position by simply saying no more. And I think then that the retailer might have to bow to the local farmer. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few years. So it's not an easy one because some farmers, ironically, are making a lot of profit. And so that's why there isn't the complete unity, even ironically, within the farming community themselves. But let's see. So look, we'll open it up to the listeners. Listeners, do you think our friend, our old MacDonald, is having hard times, or perhaps do you have a different view? I mean, do you think farming is in a crisis? And again, not just in the United Kingdom. What about other communities around the world? Why not drop us a line on www.markandpete.com and let us know? So join us again for more colourful conversations next time. We look forward to hearing from you soon.